tissues are studied using a microscope. So magnification of between 40 to 1,000 times. Also can refer to it or called histology, comparative anatomy, comparison between two specimens, embryology, study of development in utero or within the egg, i.e., birds, what we did in the birds lab, studying the inside of the egg. Morphology pertaining to structure, physiology pertaining to body organ function individually and collectively in the system. Terms to describe location, anatomical terminology. This becomes more important, especially when you get to your labs, or a lot of you are pre-vet, or even in labs or in dissection. You should be familiar with this terminology. Dorsal, top or back of the tetrapod. Ventral, belly or underside of the tetrapod. And so here is comparing the two between a human upright and a horse. Cranial, anterior towards the head, front. Caudal, towards the tail, rear, posterior. Rostral, towards the nose, refers to structure in the head only. So only within this head region. Cutaneous anatomy, functions, protection, vitamin D, hormone sensations, excretion, temperature regulations. Skin is which is a major organ. One of the largest organs, is the largest organ that we have, consists of two layers. The epidermis, which is the outer layer filled with epithelial cells, and the dermis, cortium, composed of connective tissues and vessels. The dermis also contains accessory structures. So you have the subcutaneous glands, the oil, sweat glands, you have your sensory nerves, your hair, and anterior pili muscles. And on the following slide, we will see those as labeled. Then the structure here is produced by hair follicles in the skin. So sheep produce wool, birds are covered with feathers. So their anatomy for this will look somewhat different, but it's the same. So make sure you can look at the follicle below the skin layer, which is the dermis layer, and be able to or be familiar with the parts that will make those parts of the anatomy. So also, I've done this with entering chips, tracking chips. So when they do them subcutaneously, they insert the chips right below the skin. And so they do them in wild animals, they use them in also your pets, companion animals. So just below the skin. The skeletal system function provides framework for the body, protection and attachment of your muscles. So your major organs is your bone. So it's just essentially your bone structure. It's considered your skeletal system. Mammals and birds have an endoskeleton consisting of long bones of the legs, ribs, vertebrae, and skull. The outer layers of bones consist of calcium and minerals. The inner core is a soft tissue known as bone marrow. The red marrow is a site of blood cells production, while yellow marrow is primarily fat. So that's in the inner core, in your bone marrow. Articulations is your joints. Unites bones specialized for a specific task. So those include your tendons and your ligaments. So here's a side view of a normal joint. So you see a lot of athletes that have knee injuries, or they've torn, say their meniscus or their patella. And so this is the outer structure of the joints within the knee that they may tear. So types of synovial joints, you have your ball and socket joint, which is in your shoulder, your hinge, which is in your elbow, pivot, which is in your neck, lining, which is the vertebrae. Ligaments span joints outside the joint's collapse, within the collapse of the synovial fluid. So it's very important to know the makeup of the joints and how the fluid and state it's able to get that range of motion that it needs. Muscular system functions movement and force. Major organs, you have your skeletal muscles. Voluntary, you have striated muscles, which you see in this cat, or if you dissect the cat, you'll see in the structure. Once you remove the skin, it looks similar to this, and it has the striated muscles. The skeletal muscles, which is connected to bones via the tendons. You have your extensor, which is the straighten, the flexor, which is the bend, abductor, move away from your midline, adductor, you move towards your midline. And so when you get a chance, go through the muscular system and see the different type of the skeleton, the different muscles, and make sure you familiarize yourself with those and see how what part and what type of muscle go where. It's, to me, it's fascinating just to see the different muscles and how one muscle shows up to do one particular thing. So if you're able to do a dissection, make sure you're able to get a chance to look at these different muscles and see how they vary between one another. Other types of muscles, you have involuntary, smooth and striated. You have digestive, urogenital, respiratory system walls, and cardiac heart. And so you watch a lot of these doctor shows, when they're feeling inside of somebody's cavity, when they're feeling in the general direction, and they know the difference between how the feel of it. So your circulatory system, transport nutrients, blood, and other substances necessary to sustain life processes. Major organs, you have your heart, your veins, your arteries, capillaries, lymph vessels and lymph nodes, your spleen, your red marrow, which is your bone marrow. So the picture is showing the circulatory system. It's made up of blood vessels that carry blood away from and towards the heart. Arteries carry the blood away from the heart, and veins carry blood back to the heart. So just remember what carries it in and what carries it out.
Can you repeat that, please?
Referring to the picture?
Yes, ma'am, about the in and out.
The arteries carry blood away from the heart. The vein carry blood back to the heart.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Blood composition. So 50 to 65% of blood volume is plasma. It contains 90% water. 10% solids include salt, protein, enzymes, antibodies, hormones, vitamins, minerals, glucose, clotting factors, and it's clotting of blood, of course. Cells leave a fluid called serum. So if you ever seen, or if you have your blood taken, they draw your blood and put it in the centrifuge machine, and they separate out and they tell the different properties that make up your blood composition. 35 to 50% blood cells are red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets, which help body clot or blood to clot. And we'll go over that in a little bit more in detail. So these are under the microscope. This is a picture of blood cells, various blood cells that you will find. Neutrophils, types of white blood cells that protects us from infection, from bacteria. Eosinophils, a disease-fighting white blood cell, and kills parasites and worms, essentially. Basophils, these are produced in the bone marrow. They are found throughout the body. Also, if they are too high, is due to a severe allergic reaction. So you'll see an increase in those if you're having an allergic reaction to something. Lymphocytes are found in the lymph tissue, produces antibodies to attack bacteria directly. Monocytes can leave the bloodstream and enter tissue, and they attack bacteria as well. And so when you get a chance to look up YouTube videos of these different blood cells and see how they operate and see how they, you have bacteria infection, see how these blood cells surround it and attack it. It's very fascinating. So when you get a chance, look at those. Platelets help your blood to clot. Erythrocytes contains the pigment hemoglobin, which imparts the red color in your red blood cells and transports oxygen and carbon dioxide to and from the tissues. When you get a chance, make sure you look those up and see actual pictures and how they work inside the body. It's very fascinating. Excuse me. Lymphatic system. Lymph vessels collect tissue fluids, are filtered through lymph nodes, and then return to veins of the circulatory system. Major organs include lymph nodes, filter out foreign cells and materials. They produce lymphocytes. Lymphocytes produce antibodies and also destroy foreign and infectious cells. So this is just a depiction of the ins and outs of this lymphatic system and how it works together. Your digestive system, which we have been talking about quite a bit for the past few lectures, and so make sure you are familiar with the digestive system. So the the function of it is digestion of food stuff to supply nutrients for life processes. Major organs, different species, if we've seen before, different species have different digestive functions and different digestive makeups. So ruminants have four components. You have the rumen, reticulum, mesum, abomasum, which is the true glandular stomach in the rumen. Poultry have a crop proventriculus, which is the glandular stomach for fowl, and the ventriculus. And horses have a large cecum. And then you have accessory organs, which is your liver, pancreas, salivary glands, intestines. And these are organs that help aid with digestion, but are not part of the digestive tract. So if you see something accessory glands, then that's what it's referring to. It helps aid in digestion, but it's not a part of the digestive tract.
The ones with
So
the
this
stars,
should be.
are they the true stomach?
I didn't say that one more time.
The ones with the asterisks by, are you indicating that those are the true stomach?
Yes. All right, so this should be a familiar picture for you. You see on the previous slide, this is the ruminant animals, and they have the four chambers. Your true stomach is the abomasum. So poultry, let me see, that was chapter 6. It breaks down poultry, your ruminant, of course, swine and horses, something else, and it's another species, I'm thinking. But they really break down and go into detail of the digestive system. So if you have more questions on true stomach or how the digestion system flows from species to species, make sure you refer to chapter 6. Your poultry digestive system, as seen numerous times as well, the difference in their digestive system is that the ventriculus, which is the true stomach, and it's where digestion primarily begins. And so when it's asking, or just like she asked with the asterisk, it's saying the true stomach, that's usually primarily where digestion begins to take place. Monogastric pigs, their true stomach is the duodenum, and the small intestine is divided into, for the pig, it's divided into 3 portions. You have your duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. The small intestine is the main site for food absorption and digestion for your monogastrics. So horse digestive systems is unique due to its large cecum, its active cecobacteria population. It digests the fiber. So the stomach is small for the horse's size. Horse does not have a gallbladder. However, the small intestine is similar to the monogastrics. So you can see a reference, the size of the stomach in comparison to the cecum. So yeah, your foregut, your hindgut, and your small intestines. Really small in comparison to others. Your respiratory system. So breathing, which results in oxygen taken in and carbon dioxide being released. So you have your major organs, your nostrils, your nasal cavity, pharynx, tubes that goes down to the stomach and your lungs. Epiglottis, it prevents food and drink from entering the windpipes. Larynx, which is considered also your voice box. Lungs, you have your brachia and brachioles and alveoli. Birds also have a voice box, syrinx in the air sacs. Respiratory center, the medulla of the brain. Oh, my stuff getting cut off. So your nervous system provides animals with ability to react and adjust to stimuli, coordinate physical activity, provides pathways for actions of all senses. So the nervous system allows you movement, your mobility. Your nervous system is your brain, your spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system, you have your somatic nerves, it serves the muscles and the skin, and the autonomic nerve serves the visceral organs. And so this is a picture of neurons, which are nerve cells, and receives and conduct impulses to other neurons or effector organs. So essentially, your nervous system, your spinal cord, is the encasing around your nervous system. And so your nervous system sends out signals and messages to the rest of your bodies and your functions and your organs so they can properly communicate with the brain. The brain communicates through your nervous system and your neurons and tells each body function what to do and how to operate. Your urinary system is sole function is to excrete waste from the body. Excretory products is you have salt, your urine, in most animals, and uric acid, birds, reptiles, Dalmatian dogs, and humans. So sometimes you see people sweat, and their sweat is like white, and so that's what it is. It's coming out of the system. It's coming out of salt. You have major organs, your kidney, and different species have different kidney shapes. Cattle and chicken have lobulated. Your horses have a heart-shaped kidney, and for humans, sheep, and pigs, we have bean-shaped kidneys. So the picture you see to the side. Ureter, urine passes from the kidney to the bladder or the cloaca. You have your bladder, which is down in the middle. It stores the urine. The urethra removes urine from the body. You have your endocrine system. Produces hormones, communication, and regulation, which helps maintain homeostasis. So balance internal environment. Make sure everything inside and internally, hormone-wise, is balanced and functioning properly. Excuse me. Major organs incorporates organs from other systems. So you have your brain, which is the hypothalamus, pituitary, pineal gland, gonads, adrenal glands, your pancreas, your thyroid, and parathyroid glands, which release hormones that control metabolism. So you have the reproductive system, which we all should be quite familiar with, which provides an avenue for propagation and continuation of the species through reproduction. Male's reproductive system was the penis, the Capras gland, prostate gland, seminal vesicles, epididymis, testes, and brain. And female reproductive system, your vagina, cervix, uterus, ovary ducts, which is your fallopian tube, ovary, and your brain. In avian species, only the left ovary is functional. So look back and make sure you know the reason why. Kendra, put your phone on mute, please. Female reproductive tract, you have the non-litter bearing cow and pig that is litter bearing. In this picture, you see how the pig is litter bearing and it's expanded and opened up. And so it's just going over, giving you a picture view of where the reproductive system, the organs, the major organs are located. So we have the male reproductive tract. So when you get time and go back through your lectures and you're studying, maybe print this out or draw it out and make sure you labeling them so that you will know what goes where. It's a good study tactic that I always use. And so essentially the male testes for the male reproductive tract, for the bull. And so each letter has a name here. So make sure you go through that's in there included for study purposes. Assisted reproductive techniques. So you have technique used to improve reproductive efficiency of animals. And so you have superovulation, and we'll go in these in detail a little bit later in the PowerPoint. Process of inducing to release more than one egg, embryo transfer, the last part of vitro fertilization process. Medications are used to release healthy eggs. In vitro fertilization is extracting eggs, retrieving a sperm sample, then manually combining egg and sperm in the lab. Cloning, producing genetically identical copies of a biological entity. Transgenics, an organism that contains genetic material into which DNA from an unreleased organism has been artificially introduced. So a little bit more detail in embryo transfer. Transferring embryos from one genetically superior female to another. Embryos may be recovered from a donor female or may be fertilized and grown in vitro, often linked with superpopulation. Transfer of frozen embryos also common, allowing longer term storage. Also used to expand populations of endangered species. So this can be a very important tool when it comes to trying to bring back or trying to help population recover when it's on the dangerous species list. You have some cases that have been successful and some cases that have not been successful. And they did, in fact, go extinct. Now, superovulation, manipulation of ovulation to dramatically increase simulation release in a single genetically superior individual. So generally involves use of follicle stimulating hormones and prostaglandin. Multiple ova may be fertilized in vitro or in vitro. Ova are manually collected from dam. Received females are utilized to implant fertilized ova. So when you go into your, what's the other class? You'll be heavy in these superovulations when we get into artificial insemination courses, or we should be coming up on that next class period. So that'll be heavy in artificial insemination and just breeding and cloning in general. Cloning, which has been a very controversial topic. I remember when they first cloned, I think it was the first sheep. And so there was very controversial topic. A lot of people do not agree with cloning. And it has its pros and cons and benefits and of that, but it all lies with the individual on what your beliefs are. Cloning and ovum recovered from a female is inoculated and genetic material from a diploid donor cell is inserted. So new clone embryos implanted in a recipient and offspring is created from one genetic parent, which is a dolly. No natural born identical twins are actually clones of each other. So only identical twins naturally occur, and they're actually considered to be clones of each other. One more slide. So transgenics, an animal with genetic makeup of more than two parents. Technology creating the inclusion portion of foreign DNA into DNA of another cell via splicing techniques. Why? Why do they do this? To attempt to insert a cure or control from a genetic disease to create organisms that produce pharmaceuticals to advance the science of medicine. So this is very important in the pharmaceutical world and trying to come up with cures or control genetic diseases and being able to insert them right into those organisms. So selected reproduction terms, so just more terms that you should be familiar with and know and understand. Estrus cycle, the interval between two estrus periods. Estrus, the time of receptivity to mating during the estrus cycle, also termed in heat. So oftentimes more familiar term would be the dog is in heat or she's in heat. And so they're usually ready. The breeder is looking, if she's in heat, she's in heat. They're gearing up to breeder. Gestations, pregnancy, paturation, the act of giving birth. Puberty, sexual maturity. Ovulation, release of ovum, which is the egg from the ovary. Copulation, the act of mating. Fertilization, union of male and female sex cells. Conception, becoming pregnant. So, last but not least, reproductive terms. So I left these blanks for you all to go and research these a little more for yourself. May see them, may be extra credit, may not see them. So just make sure you prepare yourself. We have 10 minutes or so left. So take your time and look these up, and then we'll share them with the class. So I'll ask you all to share, and I do not want the same person sharing every time. So make sure you are paying attention. And I need 6 different people to share the terms and definition of these. So go ahead, take about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back together and share.
Number 17.
Participated in the drama, not soccer.
Oh, yes, okay.
Kendra, go on mute, please.
We did a piece for the anesthetic. Then we did the introduction for the bubble.
Kendra.
Yeah. It's a piece at the shoulders and the hind leg. But it was a abdominal surgery. So we just pulled the cecum out and was looking at it, and then we got to the back. What we were doing is diamond collection.
What did you do at that place?
And out today,